When dealing with messy, uncomplicated humans, computers can always be relied on to be logical, or at the very least, sensible. The Mark I Computer by Terry Pratchett. Read by Karl. Once upon a time, there was a little computer. Lived with a lot of other computers in a big airy building called the Blackberry Institute of Electronic Research. She was called Mark I. It was not a lonely life for Mark I, because although she was really the oldest computer, all the other ones in the big area building were much brainier than her. There were Mark II, Mark III, Mark V. Mark IV had been built into a rocket ship and sent to the moon, but never came back again. And Mark VI, who was a real whiz at everything. They all had shiny cases and steel keyboards, but Mark I looked as if she'd been built out of old washing machines. She spent most of the day humming herself in a corner while white-coated scientists clustered around the other Marks. Most of the scientists used Mark I to work out whose turn it was to brew the tea, which strangely, like in most workplaces, always seemed to turn out to be the newest member of staff, who couldn't wait to be the newest but one when next year's university grads came looking for a job. Usually the only person that came near was Alfred the caretaker, who long after everyone else had gone home for the night, used to bring his sandwiches and sit down with his back against Mark I's control panel. "You're a bit of a museum piece," Alfred told him right when he was sweeping the floor. "It was just after the war, the which one I can't remember, when they made you. Shouldn't wonder if there aren't bits of army machinery bits into your console." "What's an army?" typed Mark I on the monitor. Fred explained. While he was drawing pictures and holding them up to Mark I's electronic eyes, something very sinister was happening. Outside the institute, a large laureate pulled up, and on the side were painted the words, "International Master Spies Limited. We snoop anywhere." A few minutes later, two black-cloaked figures with big floppy hats climbed the ladder and peered in the computers through the window. "Which one have you got to steal, Boris?" whispered one of them. "I don't know, mate. Mark VI, I think. I expect it'll be the biggest one." But of course, the biggest one was Mark I, the very first computer the Institute scientists had built. She was humming herself in the corner when the two spies crept in. Alfred the caretaker told her all about spies during those long days when there was nothing else to do. She had also watched an awful lot of James Bond movies, downloaded by the scientists when they wanted something to watch while they drank their tea, so they recognized what the two men were immediately. "Aha," Mark I said. She could speak words as well as type them, and sometimes chose to do both. "Spies. You are spies, aren't you? Look like spies to me." "I think this must be the one," said Boris to his assistants. "It's definitely very clever. It guessed we're spies." Soon Mark I was in the back of the spies lorry and rumbling through narrow country lanes. "Where are we going?" she asked. "We're sending you to the ancient land of Gillideem. I expect you'd quite like it there. It's a long way away." 7,543 miles, according to my calculations," agreed Mark I. "Gillideem was world famous for its knowledge of goats. Well, this is exciting." The lorry pulled up at an old airfield, and a short while later, a plane took off with Mark I in its hold, with one electronic eye pushed up at the window so she could watch the ground go by. Several days later, it was a very old plane, they landed in Gillideem. Gillideem was a small, hilly country stuck between the Plasmic Mountains and the sea. Has about 1 million people and 5 million goats. And generally speaking, is ruled by the Royalists on Monday, Wednesdays, and every other Thursday. In between those, the Republican revolutionaries managed to take over, except once a year when the People's Goat Liberation Army comes down from the hills and attacks the post office. The Gillideans prefer this sort of thing to general elections. There's always some sort of revolution going on. It's in fact a very interesting place to live, especially if you like goats. Mark I the computer was unloaded at a hot, dusty airport just outside the capital city and driven to the Imperial Palace, which at the time was held by the Royalists. There she met King Frederick the 21st. "Hello, your kingship," he said. "Oh, goody, a big computer," said the king, who was a tall, thin man with curly red hair and a pointed grey beard. "Just what we need." "Oh, yes? Why's that?" "Hope you're going to be able to work out how we can beat those nasty Republican people. They were bringing me some maps, and..." But the king had hardly got down to explaining what was going on when there was a sound of shots and distant explosions. Oh, bother, said the king. It's Friday, so they're revolting again. Soon the palace was filled with angry Republicans who were fighting hand in hand with the royal troops. The king was saddled off into a secret passage just as the soldiers burst in, shouting and firing guns at the ceiling. The Republicans loaded Mark I onto a trolley and towed her away from the palace while they sang angry songs about the king. What a tricky situation this is, said Mark I. There'll be one eye for the king, said the leader of the Republicans, who was sitting on the trolley. Look from here. You look just like the king, said Mark I. Call me Freddie, said Freddie. Yes, I'm the king's twin brother, actually. After all, you can't have just anyone leading a revolution. Never know what riffraff you might end up with. Fast forward a couple of months, and the guillotine fighting was in full swing. Leading the royalists was King Frederick the 21st. Leading the rebels was Freddie, the king's twin brother. Middle of it all was Mark I, the computer. The rebels had fitted onto a little jeep, which he could control via voice command, and painted her in revolutionary camouflage colors. If you move 15 troops over that hill now, you stand a 93% chance of capturing 2 buddies, computed Mark I. Good show, said Freddie, passing on order to his troops. The odd thing about the battle was that the bullets were largely made out of foam rubber. Freddie explained, You see, we all think it would be horrible to actually hurt each other. Mind you, a rubber pellet can cause quite a nasty bruise sometime. What do you actually go on fighting for, then? Well, to be honest, we'd rather enjoy it. Of course, if you had to get shot, you have to lie down and count up to at least 1,000, said Freddie. Just then the royalists made a sneaky advance, firing madly in all directions. No one really bothered where the bullets went so long as the guns went off, and Mark I had to start computing hurriedly. Everything stopped at lunchtime for tea and sandwiches, and while Mark I sat humming to herself, a head popped out of the bushes near her and said, Psst! What? Whispered Mark I. Well, she typed it very quietly. We think this war is stupid, said the voice. Yes, it's not very logical, said Mark I. Well, come and help us stop it, said the voice. So while no one was looking, Mark I trundled quietly off through the bushes, where she met Queen Abella, wife of the king, and a rather small, dark-haired lady who said she was Ilsa McBride, the wife of Freddie. We represent all the non-fighters in Gillidim, said the queen. We're fighting with that lot playing as soldiers all day. Can you stop it? Mark I thought for a long time. I'll see what I can do. I agree it's a very odd war. It's ridiculous, said Mrs. McBride. They only fight because it's a good excuse to get out there doing their fair share of chores back at home. Honestly, you'd think we're living in the past. I'll get back before they miss me, whispered Mark I. She rumbled off through the bushes again to where Freddie was gazing at some maps. I estimate the attacking forces have made a withdrawal to the city, said Mark I. Oh, good. If that's the case, I'm off down to the river for a good bath. It's about time we had a bit of a rest, said Freddie. It's a nice day, too. Pretty soon, the whole revolutionary army was diving, paddling, and swimming in the big river, except Mark I, who had chugged off to the woods until she came to the royalist camp. There she told King Frederick that the rebels had all retreated to the mountains. At last, said the king. That means we've got a day off. I could do with a swim. It's far too hot. You're not lying, are you? Computers can't lie, said Mark I in an offended tone of voice. No, I suppose not, said the king. At least they don't lie very often, said Mark I quite truthfully when she was by herself. The next thing she decided was to contact Queen Abella while both armies were having a swim. So she crashed out of the woods and roared down the lowlands until she came to a telephone box, which in Gillidim was striped red and yellow. There was a rather elderly waiting in it. Pardon me, madam, Mark I typed very loudly, banging on the glass with her 5-meter wide control panel. Haven't got all day, you know. Oh dear, she's fainted. This moment taught Mark I never to frighten people in telephone boxes. Queen Abella of Gillidim was sitting in the palace when her telephone rang. It's me, said a familiar electronic voice. All the soldiers have gone for a dip in the river. Now, if you get all the sensible people who decided not to fight to go up to the riverbank and steal the uniforms, I think that will end the fighting. Jolly good, said Queen Abella. How much does a telephone box cost? added Mark 1, trying to sound a little casual. I don't know. Well, I may have had to slightly demolish this one to get the phone out. I'm a bit big to get in the box, you see. I'm really very sorry. Hope you can settle things with the post office, she said sheepishly. The Queen laughed and put the telephone down. About an hour later, when the two armies had finished their swim, they immersed in the river to find their uniforms had vanished. There was a lot of shouting and milling about, but since everyone's long woolly underwear looked very much alike, apart from the one captain who was wearing a pair of pink and yellow striped long pants with an amusing message written on his bottom, no one knew who their enemy was. Pretty soon, a long column of shaved-faced soldiers came down out of the hills. Leading it were King Frederick and Freddie, who hadn't actually met for several years and were exchanging gossip. One by one, the soldiers slipped off to their homes and tried to make as little fuss as possible about the whole business. And that was the end of the war. Since somebody wanted to seem mean, Mark I was loaded out with medals. They had to be screwed under a monitor. And later on, she was driven in triumph through the streets. She was even the guest of honor at a state banquet, where all she could eat, of course, was electricity. Better be getting back to Blackberry, she said after the banquet. I expect they'd be worried. But you can't go back like that, said King Frederick, covered in camouflaged paint and medals and dried mud. That's not very scientific, is it? You can stay here and be Minister of Finance in our joint government. We'd be pleased to have you. Please do, said Freddie. Maths is not our strong point. Mark I thought about it, and about the airy room back at Blackberry, which she was the least important computer of all. That's a very logical idea, she said. I'd very much like to stay. And so she did. The end.